turn. Okay, so I'm going to talk about activities in the university, especially activism, because Columbia University is really known, well, we're known for being a very liberal campus, so most people there hate Bush and are very vocal about it, though of course there are people who all like him too. But we're definitely known for being very active in politics. I have some pictures. I went to a protest last year with the Columbia University Democrats, and it was in Washington, D.C., and we walked to the White House, and everyone had signs protesting the war, and also it was right after Hurricane Katrina, so people were protesting how the government dealt with that. So I can pass these around, so you guys can look at them. But yeah, we went on a bus, and it was like a 5-hour drive, and we all went to Washington, D.C., and did this. And there's been several more demonstrations against the war, and a lot of people participate in them. And there's also a lot of debate that goes on campus. I know this year, like, the big thing was the college Republicans invited a group that they're called the Minutemen, and they support, they're a group that guards the borders between the United States and Mexico, but they do it, it's not really legal, it's just guys who decide that they're gonna get rid of illegal immigrants. So it's a very controversial group, and the Republicans invited a speaker to come to campus, and there was all these protests. Everyone had signs saying, you know, they didn't want this person on our campus. We don't want to seem like we're supporting someone like this. And there was actually a fight that occurred between the speaker and some of the students. So we were on the national news for that. And it's a big controversy because another one of the big topics is free speech. And we like to think that we support free speech and that anyone can come on campus and say what they want and we'll listen. So then, you know, some people were angry that the speaker wasn't allowed to speak, even if we didn't agree with him. So that was kind of the controversy of the year. And it seems like every year there's always something that everyone gets really excited and passionate about, and they read about it in the newspaper and everyone's talking about it. So that's kind of the stereotype of Columbia. And we have a history of protest. We were just talking about in 1968, there were all these protests on campus against the Vietnam War, and also what's still happening is that, as Mira said, Columbia's right, we're basically in Harlem, so we're by a lot of low-income housing, and Columbia buys up a lot of the land around because it needs to expand, and in New York there's really no room to expand. So there's a lot of debate over whether they should be buying these places because they're buying out people and people lose their homes. So that's another debate that goes on a lot on campus. And then other groups, I mean, there's a lot of volunteer groups. People really like to get involved in the community. I volunteer with a group that teaches students in Harlem and in other schools, 5th graders. We teach them conflict resolution, and there's lots of groups like this. So people are, for the most part, really, really involved in things. It's like high school, but it feels a little different because in high school I was in every group that I could be, so I could put it on my college application. But now that I'm in college, I kind of just do what I really care about.
Yeah, you just pick one or two activities and
yeah.
do those, and you get really into it.
Yeah, because pretty much one activity is going to take up all your time. So, yeah. Oh, and then also Barnard College, which is only women, of course. So another one of the big issues on campus is women's rights and a lot of things having to do with women. And one of the biggest things that goes on campus is Take Back the Night, which is when a group gets together and they march through the streets and they have whistles and they're all screaming, and it's to raise awareness about sexual violence against women, and a bunch of people participate in this, and that's something that's really, really important to Barnard. And yeah, so I don't know, we were talking about, for us,
yeah, we were talking about barriers between
Barnard and Columbia, because literally they're on different sides of the same street. So there's two separate campuses, but a lot of the students, I mean, we take classes at Columbia students take classes at Barnard, so it's a mixture, and you see guys all the time, and you have male friends, and so in some ways it feels like a co-ed education, though I know for me, I definitely feel like I'm not getting a co-ed education.
Because I live only with girls
Right,
in the dorms.
right.
They all live in dorms and there's only girls.
Right, so most of my friends are my friends from my first year dorm. There's just like a bunch of girls living on one floor. You get really close to each other. So for me, I try and take as many classes at Barnard as I can because it's smaller. I feel like I don't know, for me it's better, but it depends. So if you're in activities, you'll probably have lots of friends from Columbia and there'll be a crossover, but it's kind of what you decide what kind of education you want.
I have a very different experience because I take the majority of my classes at Columbia, and I live in Columbia housing. With the sorority, I'll tell you about that in a bit. But for me, it's a big goal of mine to do whatever I can to break down the boundaries between the two. So I feel very much that I have a co-ed education. So it's what you make of it.
Background?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So Columbia University has been around since
A long time ago.
something, a couple hundred years, and it was an all men's university. All of the universities in the United States were all men until women started gaining equal rights to education, to whatever else it might be. Columbia was actually one of the schools that remained all men through the 1980s. In 1982, I think, they accepted their first woman, who was a Barnard woman, actually. It was a bet between the presidents of both schools. And then Columbia liked the idea of having women who were smart in their school because they could be more selective about who they accept. They have the whole population to choose from now. Barnard was the all-women's college that was associated with Columbia University. It's like the sister school to Columbia. But Barnard really, really likes its heritage and wanted to maintain that even though Columbia became co-ed. So it remains its own university.
So officially, Barnard will only accept women. However, men can take classes there as well.
And we all have the same graduation. So it's a really strange relationship.
No one understands it.
No one really
completely.
fully understands it.
So, any questions?
All right, I'm going to talk about Greek life. Sororities. Do you know what they are? Or no? Not really? Probably not. Did you ever see Legally Blonde? How do you say that? See, so you've all seen it. Okay, so there's a sorority in that. What they're known for, mainly the stereotype, is partying and a lot of alcohol. We do community service. Each organization has its own philanthropy that we support and do activities with. So there's more to it than just partying and meeting boys, basically. I brought a scrapbook. My sorority is Delta Gamma. I lost the letter in transit. It's gone. Sorry, but I can write it on the board. It's Delta Gamma. It's actually the same sorority that was in Legally Blonde, that movie. I'll pass around the scrapbook so you can see, because otherwise you won't be able to see anything.